The conference room on Station Alpha 7 was bigger than most cities. Blue lights floated in the air showing a map of the galaxy. Every star system, every trade route, and every known planet glowed with soft colors. Ships from dozens of different alien races had traveled here for this meeting. They all wanted answers to the same question. Ambassador Zix-429 stood at the center of the room. His four arms moved as he spoke to the gathered aliens. The Alterian had lived for 300 years and had never seen anything like this before. His large black eyes stared at the floating map. "Look at this," he said, pointing one of his clawed hands at a section of the map. "Here we have the Centauri Republic. Their territory is clearly marked. We know every planet they control." The other aliens nodded. A crystal being named Cathara made sounds like wind chimes. "Yes, and here is our space. The Vorthan Empire spans 12 star systems, all documented." Zix-429 moved his hand across the map. "The Zephyrian Collective, the Plasma Lords, the Silicon Brotherhood. We know where they all live. We know how many ships they have. We know what they trade and what they need." The map showed hundreds of civilizations. Some were old and powerful. Others were young and still growing. Different colors marked their borders. Trade routes connected them like a web of light. But at one edge of the map, everything stopped. "Then we have this," Zix-429 said. His voice was quiet now. "Human space." The aliens all looked at the same spot. There, the beautiful map of the galaxy simply ended. No trade routes went beyond it. No exploration data existed past that point. It was like someone had taken a knife and cut the map in half. Captain Ryan Burke sat in a chair that looked too small for the room. The human was young, maybe 30 years old. His brown hair was cut short and his blue eyes seemed calm. But something about him made the aliens nervous. "Is there a problem with our territory?" Ryan asked. His voice was steady and polite. A tall gray alien named Vexitar stepped forward. The Andromedian's long neck stretched as he spoke. "Captain Burke, your species appeared in this galaxy 200 years ago. You had basic fusion engines and simple weapons, yet your territory on our maps extends only to a certain point, then nothing." Ryan smiled. It was not a happy smile. "That's correct." "But why?" asked Cathara. Her crystal body flashed different colors as she spoke. "Every species shares their territorial data. How else can we trade? How else can we avoid conflicts?" Dr. Helen Price leaned forward from her seat next to Ryan. The human woman had gray hair and kind eyes, but she also carried herself like someone who knew dangerous secrets. "Perhaps the question is not why we don't share our data, but why you assume we need to." The room became very quiet. In 3,000 years of galactic civilization, this had never happened before. Every species that joined the galactic community shared their star charts. It was the first rule of civilized space. Zix-429 tried again. "Captain Burke, our deep space scanners show no major human presence beyond the mapped areas. We see a few small outposts, some mining operations. Nothing that would require secrecy." "Your scanners are very good," Ryan said. "For most things." "What does that mean?" demanded Vextar. Helen answered instead. "It means your scanners are designed to find things that want to be found." The aliens looked at each other. This was getting more confusing by the minute. A small blue creature named Pip spoke up from near the back. The Aquarian's voice bubbled like water. "Are you saying you're hiding something? But why? Humans seem so ordinary." Ryan and Helen exchanged a look. Something passed between them that none of the aliens could understand. "Ordinary is a good word," Helen said slowly. "We work very hard to seem ordinary." Zix-429 was getting frustrated. His people had been mapping space for over 1,000 years. They had the best cartographers in the galaxy. "Captain Burke, I don't think you understand. We need complete territorial data for trade agreements, defense pacts, and resource sharing. The galactic economy depends on accurate maps." "I understand perfectly," Ryan replied, "but you're making assumptions about what exists beyond our mapped borders." "Then tell us," said Cathara. "What is out there?" Ryan was quiet for a long moment. Around the room, aliens from dozens of species waited for his answer. Some had traveled for months to attend this meeting. The question of human space had been bothering the galactic community for decades. "What's out there?" Ryan said finally, "is why the galactic map ends where it does." That answer made no sense to anyone. Dr. Helen Price stood up slowly. She walked to the floating map and pointed at the edge of human territory. "Every species here has shared their complete territorial data because you all expanded naturally. You found new worlds, colonized them, and your borders grew slowly over time." She turned to face the room. "Humans are different." "How different?" asked Pip. "Different enough that showing you our complete territory would change everything you think you know about this galaxy." The aliens began talking among themselves. Their voices filled the room with strange sounds, clicks, whistles, electronic tones, and bubbling noises mixed together. Zix 429 raised all four of his arms for silence. "Dr. Price, that sounds like a threat." "Not a threat," Helen said calmly. "A warning. There are things in this galaxy that your species are not ready to understand. The map ends at human space because what lies beyond changes everything." Ryan stood up next to her. For such a young human, he seemed very sure of himself. "We've been protecting you from that knowledge." "Protecting us?" Vextar's long neck swayed back and forth. "From what?" "From the truth about who we really are," Ryan said, "and what we're really doing out here." The room fell completely silent. Even the soft humming of the station's engines seemed to stop. Cathara's crystal body turned a deep red color. "Captain Burke, you're scaring us." "Good," Ryan replied. "Fear is the beginning of wisdom." Helen walked back to her seat. "We didn't want to have this conversation. We hoped we could keep operating quietly for another few centuries. But your mapping project is getting too advanced. Your scanners are getting too good. Soon you'll detect things that will raise questions we're not ready to answer." "What kind of things?" whispered Pip. Ryan looked around the room at all the different alien faces staring at him. Some had eyes like his. Others had different ways of seeing. But they all looked afraid now. "The kind of things that explain why humans went from primitive fusion drives to faster than light travel in less than 50 years, he said. "The kind of things that explain why human ships can go places your ships cannot. The kind of things that explain why we choose to trade with you using technology that's hundreds of years older than what we actually possess." Zix 429 felt his hearts beating faster. All Alterians had two hearts, and both of his were racing now. "You're saying humans are more advanced than you appear?" "I'm saying," Ryan replied, "that appearances can be very deceiving." Helen pulled out a small device from her pocket. It looked like a simple communicator. "We're going to make you an offer. One time only." She pressed a button on the device. Suddenly the lights in the room dimmed. The floating map changed. Now it showed not just the known galaxy, but something beyond it. Something that made every alien in the room step backward. "We can show you why the map ends at human space," Helen said. "But once you see it, you can never go back to not knowing. Your entire understanding of the galaxy, of reality itself, will change forever." The aliens stared at the new images floating in the air. They showed things that shouldn't exist, places that couldn't be real, technologies that violated everything they thought they knew about physics. "The choice is yours," Ryan said. "You can accept that the map ends where it ends and continue living the way you always have, or you can learn the truth about what lies beyond and discover why humans really came to this galaxy." Zix 429 looked around at his fellow ambassadors. Every face showed the same expression, fear mixed with curiosity, the desire to know even when knowing might be dangerous. "What happens if we choose to see?" he asked. Ryan's smile was sad now. "Then you'll understand why everyone is afraid to ask." 6 months had passed since the meeting on Station Alpha 7. The alien ambassadors had made their choice. They wanted to see what lay beyond the edge of their maps. Now 12 ships from 7 different species floated at the border of known human space. The Alterian flagship Cosmic Harmony was the largest ship in the group. Ambassador Zix-429 stood on its bridge looking out at the stars. Next to the Harmony were ships from the Vorthan Empire, the Centauri Republic, and 4 other major civilizations. Each ship carried the best sensors and equipment their people could build. They were all waiting for their human guide. "Contact approaching," announced the ship's computer. "Human vessel detected." A small ship appeared on their screens. Compared to the alien vessels, it looked simple. The hull was smooth metal with no fancy decorations. No exotic energy readings came from its engines. It looked like something built with basic technology. "This is Commander Jake Harrison of the human vessel New Horizon," came a voice over the radio. "Welcome to the edge of map space. Are you ready to see what's beyond?" Zix-429 activated his communicator. "We are ready, Commander Harrison. Our ships are equipped with the most advanced sensors in the galaxy. We can detect anything." There was a pause. Then Jake's voice came back and he sounded amused. "We'll see about that." The New Horizon began moving away from the alien fleet. It was not a fast ship by galactic standards. The alien vessels had no trouble keeping up with it. "First jump point in 30 minutes, Jake announced. Dr. Veltar of the Centauri Republic checked his instruments. The Centauri had the best science equipment of all the species present. "I'm not detecting any jump gate or wormhole generator," he reported to his captain. "How do they plan to travel? Faster than light without a jump gate?" asked Captain Mordoon. They got their answer when the New Horizon simply vanished. 1 second it was there. The next second it was gone. No energy buildup, no spatial distortion, no gravitational waves. It just stopped existing in that location. "Did it explode?" whispered someone on the Vorthan ship. "No explosion detected," reported Veltar. "It just left." Jake's voice came over the radio again, but now it sounded like it was coming from very far away. "Follow the navigation beacon, try to keep up." A small light appeared in space ahead of them. The alien ships engaged their fastest engines and chased after it. It took them 6 hours to reach the location where the beacon waited. When they arrived, the New Horizon was floating calmly in space, as if it had been there the whole time. "How did you get here so fast?" demanded Zix-429. "We took a shortcut," Jake replied. "Welcome to the first system beyond your maps." The alien crews looked at their screens and gasped. This was not what they had expected to find. The system had a star, but no planets orbited it. Instead, massive ring-shaped structures circled the sun. Each ring was enormous, bigger than most worlds. They spun slowly, creating artificial gravity on their inner surfaces. "Ring worlds," breathed Dr. Veltar. "We theorized about such constructs but thought they were impossible to build." "How many people live on those rings?" asked Cathara from the Vorthan ship. Jake's voice was casual. "About 40 billion, give or take." 40 billion. That was more people than lived in most entire star systems. "How old are these structures?" asked Pip from the Aquarian vessel. "These particular ones? About 80 years old. We built them after we settled this system." Zix-429 felt his 2 hearts racing again. "Commander Harrison, our records show that humans only achieved faster-than-light travel 60 years ago. How? Could you have built these rings 80 years ago?" "Your records might not be complete," Jake said. The alien ships moved closer to the rings. Their sensors detected cities, farms, factories, and millions of ships moving between the structures. The technology readings were incredible. These weren't just big rings in space. They were engineering, marvels that defied everything the aliens thought they knew about construction. "The materials alone," whispered Veltar. "The energy requirements, the structural integrity. This should be impossible." "Commander Harrison," called Zix-429. "We need to talk." "Later," Jake replied. "We have more systems to visit. Try to keep up this time." The New Horizon vanished again. The second system was even more shocking than the first. When the alien fleet finally caught up, they found something that made them question their understanding of physics itself. The stars had been moved, not one star, but several. They formed a perfect geometric pattern in space. Each star burned a different color, red, blue, white, and some colors that shouldn't exist at all. The light from these stars powered massive construction projects that filled the entire system. "This is impossible," said Captain Morden of the Vorthon Empire. Stars cannot be moved. The energy required would be greater than the output of entire galaxies. And yet, Jake's voice came over the radio. Here they are. Planets had been taken apart and rebuilt into new shapes. Some were perfect spheres covered in cities. Others were flat disks that rotated to create gravity. One world had been hollowed out and turned into a massive factory that glowed like a second sun. How long have humans been capable of stellar engineering? Asked Zix 429. Time is a funny thing, Jake replied. Depends on how you measure it. The alien crews were becoming frightened. This level of technology was beyond anything they had imagined. Moving stars was something only theoretical physicists talked about in universities. Actually doing it required science and engineering that seemed like magic. Commander Harrison, said Dr. Veltar, I need to ask you directly, how advanced are humans really? That's a complicated question. Try to give us a simple answer. Jake was quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was serious. Dr. Veltar, what's the most advanced thing your people have ever built? Our quantum computers can process information at speeds approaching theoretical limits. And the Alterians? Zix 429 answered proudly. We have mastered gravity manipulation. Our ships can create artificial black holes for propulsion. The Vorthons? Kithara's crystal body flashed colors as she spoke. We can convert pure energy into matter and back again. All impressive, Jake said. Now let me show you what humans built for lunch. A new structure appeared on their screens. It looked like a small moon, but as they got closer, they realized it was artificial. The surface was covered with millions of openings that glowed with inner light. What is it? Asked Pip. Food production facility, Jake answered casually. It feeds about 12 billion people per day. We have thousands of them. The aliens stared at their screens in disbelief. The structure was producing more food every day than some entire planets consumed in a year. There are more systems to see, Jake announced. But I should warn you, some of my colleagues think we're showing you too much too fast. They're worried you might not be ready for what comes next. What comes next? Asked Zix 429. The truth about why we're really here. By now, half the alien crews were requesting permission to return home. What they had seen already was too much to process. Ring worlds, moved stars, impossible engineering projects. It was clear that humans were far more advanced than they had pretended to be. But questions remained. If humans could do all this, why had they appeared in the galaxy with primitive technology? Why had they pretended to be a young species just learning to travel between stars? What were they hiding? One more system, Jake said. Then we'll explain everything. The new horizon vanished again. This time, several of the alien ships stayed behind. Their crews had seen enough. But Zix 429, Veltar, Kethara, and a few others followed the navigation beacon to the final destination. When they arrived, their sensors detected nothing. Empty space, no stars, no planets, no structures of any kind. Commander Harrison called Zix 429. There's nothing here. Are you sure about that? Jake's voice carried a note of amusement that made the aliens nervous. Computer, Jake said, disable temporal shielding. Reality flickered. Suddenly, the empty system was full of activity. Massive structures phased into existence around them. Ships larger than cities appeared out of nowhere. Construction projects that stretched across entire star systems became visible, and in the center of it all, something that hurt to look at directly. A sphere was being built around the system's star. The structure was so large that planets could fit inside it like tiny marbles. What is that? Whispered Kethara. A Dyson sphere, Jake replied. We're building a cage around the sun to capture all its energy. Dr. Veltar's voice was barely a whisper. How many of these do you have? This is number 47. We're planning to build about 300 more. The alien representatives sat in stunned silence. Everything they thought they knew about technology, about physics, about what was possible in the universe, had been turned upside down. Commander Harrison, said Zix 429 finally. We need answers. Real answers. How did humans become so advanced? How did you hide all this? And why are you showing us now? Jake's voice was quiet when he answered. Because the time for hiding is almost over. And because you're going to need to understand what you're really dealing with before it's too late. Too late for what? Too late to prepare for what's coming. The alien ships followed the New Horizon to a space station that defied description. It was bigger than a moon, but seemed to exist in several dimensions at once. Parts of it flickered in and out of reality. Other sections appeared to be made of light itself. Welcome to Archive Station, Jake announced. This is where we keep our history. Ambassador Zix 429 stared at the impossible structure through his ship's viewing screen. Commander Harrison, that station appears to be partially existing outside normal space. Good eye, Jake replied. It has to be. Regular space isn't big, enough to hold everything we've stored here. The alien ships docked at ports that adjusted themselves to fit each vessel perfectly. As the representatives walked through corridors that seemed to stretch forever, they passed rooms filled with technologies they couldn't understand. Some rooms contained floating crystals that pulsed with energy. Others held machines that hummed, with power that made their teeth ache. Dr. Amanda Foster met them in a conference room that was larger inside than it appeared from outside. The human woman looked to be in her 40s with short black hair and eyes that seemed much older than her face. She wore simple clothes, but something about her presence made even the most confident aliens step back. Please, sit, Amanda said, gesturing to chairs that formed themselves from the floor to fit each alien perfectly. We have a lot to discuss. Zix 429 tried to maintain his diplomatic composure. Dr. Foster, we've seen incredible things today. Technology that shouldn't be possible. We need explanations. Amanda smiled, but it wasn't a happy expression. You want to know how humans became so advanced so quickly, but you're asking the wrong question. What should we be asking? Demanded Keithara, her crystal body flashing nervous colors. You should be asking how we became so advanced again. The word again hung in the air like a physical thing. The aliens looked at each other with growing unease. Dr. Veltar leaned forward. What do you mean again? Amanda waved her hand, and the walls of the room disappeared. They were now floating in space, surrounded by stars and galaxies. But these weren't the stars they knew. The patterns were all wrong. This is what your galaxy looked like 12,000 years ago, Amanda explained. The display showed star systems, connected by streams of light. Massive structures spanned the distances between stars. Entire solar systems had been converted into machines. Some stars burned in impossible colors, while others had been linked together in chains of energy. What are we looking at? Whispered Pip. The first human empire, Amanda said simply. The aliens stared in shock as the display showed the scope of ancient human civilization. It covered not just one galaxy, but dozens. Technologies that made their current achievements look primitive. Cities that existed in dimensions beyond normal space. Ships that could travel between galaxies in seconds. This is impossible, said Zix 429. Humans appeared in our galaxy only 200 years ago. You had primitive fusion drives and basic weapons. Humans returned to your galaxy 200 years ago, Amanda corrected. We had been here before, much before. The display shifted, showing worlds covered in impossible architecture. Beings that looked human but could manipulate matter with their thoughts. Technologies that bent the laws of physics like clay. We had achieved what you might call technological transcendence, Amanda continued. We could travel through time. We could create matter from nothing. We could move between dimensions at will. Death became optional. Aging became a choice. Dr. Feltar's voice was barely a whisper. You became gods. Yes, Amanda said sadly. And that was the problem. The display changed again, showing the consequences of unlimited power. Species that had become completely dependent on human help. Civilizations that never learned to solve their own problems because humans would fix everything for them. Wars fought over access to human technology. Power corrupts, Amanda explained. not political power. We had solved those problems long ago. The corruption of omnipotence itself. When you can do anything, when you can fix any problem, when you can prevent any suffering, you rob others of the chance to grow. The images showed species that had once been proud and independent, reduced to begging for human intervention. Others that had grown resentful and angry, declaring war on their benefactors. Still others that had simply given up trying to improve, themselves knowing that humans would handle everything. We were destroying the natural order of things, Amanda said. Life, death, struggle, growth. All the processes that make existence meaningful were being eliminated by our interference. Zix 429 struggled to understand. But surely helping others is good? Preventing suffering? Is it? Amanda asked. When a child falls down, do you carry them everywhere so they never fall again? Or do you help them learn to walk better? The display showed the final consequences of human godhood. Reality itself was beginning to break down. The laws of physics were becoming unstable in areas where humans had interfered too much. Some regions of space had become completely chaotic, where cause and effect no longer functioned properly. We realized we had become a plague, Amanda said quietly. Our good intentions were destroying everything we tried to help, so we made a choice. What choice? Asked Cathara. We left. All of us. Every human in the universe. The display showed the greatest exodus in galactic history. Millions of human worlds being abandoned. Technologies that could reshape reality being scattered or destroyed. Entire civilizations built by humans being left behind. But we didn't just leave, Amanda continued. We made sure we couldn't come back the same way. The final images were the most shocking of all. Humans deliberately destroying their own memories, scattering themselves across time and space, reducing themselves to primitives on a single world. Earth, breathed Zix 429. Yes. We spent thousands of years relearning what it meant to be human, to struggle, to fail, to face death, to earn our achievements through hard work instead of godlike power. Dr. Veltar looked around the impossible room. But you remember now? You have your technology back. Why? Amanda's expression became grim, because something is coming. Something we ran from the first time, something that requires the old us to face. The display changed one final time, showing the edge of known space. But beyond that edge, something was wrong. Space itself appeared to be dissolving. Stars were winking out of existence. The fundamental laws of reality were breaking down. What is that? Whispered Pip. We call it the entropy cascade, Amanda said. A wave of fundamental chaos that consumes everything in its path. It destroyed several galaxies during our first empire. We thought we had escaped it by leaving, but we were wrong. The horrifying display showed the cascade moving through space like a tide of destruction. Everything it touched simply stopped existing in any meaningful way. Not destroyed. Worse than destroyed. Unmade. It's coming here, Amanda continued. Our calculations show it will reach this region of space within the next 1,000 years. That's why we came back. That's why we've been rebuilding our capabilities. Commander Jake Harrison materialized in the room through what appeared to be a personal teleportation device. The defenses you saw today, the ring worlds, the moved stars, the Dyson spheres, they're not monuments to our power. They're weapons, preparations for a war against something that wants to unmake reality itself. The aliens sat in stunned silence. Everything they thought they knew about the universe had been turned upside down. Humans weren't a young species that had gotten lucky with technology. They were ancient gods who had given up their power to learn humility and now had to reclaim it to save everyone. So you see, Amanda said, we didn't hide our territory to keep secrets from you. We hid it because we're building the largest fortress in galactic history, and we didn't want to panic everyone until we were ready. Zix 429 found his voice. What do you need from us? That depends, Jake said. Do you want our help preparing for what's coming? Or would you prefer to pretend that the map still ends at our borders for more comfortable reasons? Kethara's crystal body had turned completely white, the color of fear in her species. How long do we have? To prepare? Amanda asked. About 1,000 years. To decide whether you want to know the truth? That choice needs to be made now. The alien representatives looked at each other. They had come here wanting to understand why human space was hidden from their maps. Now they understood that the map ended not because of secrecy, but because beyond human space lay the preparations for the most important war in the history of existence. If we agree to help, Veltar asked quietly, what would that mean? Amanda's smile was sad but determined. It means learning to become more than you ever thought possible. It means facing the fact that comfortable ignorance is a luxury none of us can afford anymore. Jake stepped forward. The choice is yours, but choose quickly. The entropy cascade doesn't care about your politics or your fears. It only cares about unmaking everything you've ever known. The silence in the room was complete. Outside the impossible station, the stars continued to shine, unaware that their very existence hung in the balance of a decision being made by beings who had just learned that gods were real and they were terrified. 3 days later, the alien representatives found themselves in a different kind of human facility. This one existed completely outside normal space and time. Admiral Kevin Stone had explained that regular meeting rooms couldn't contain what they needed to discuss. The room itself was impossible to describe. The walls showed images from across the galaxy, but also from other times and other realities. Some screens displayed the present. Others showed possible futures. A few showed events that had never happened, but might someday. Admiral Stone was an older human with gray hair and scars on his hands that looked like they came from handling dangerous energy. He sat across from the aliens at a table made of crystallized time, something that shouldn't exist but clearly did. You've seen our defenses, Admiral Stone began. You've learned about our past. Now you need to understand exactly what we're defending against. Dr. Lucy Martinez sat beside him. She was younger, maybe 35, with kind eyes that held terrible knowledge. Her job title was listed as philosopher-scientist, which confused the aliens until they realized that fighting the entropy cascade required both understanding reality and being willing to sacrifice it. The cascade isn't just destruction, Lucy explained. It's much worse than that. Destruction leaves traces, memories, echoes. The cascade removes things so completely that they never existed at all. She gestured to one of the time walls. It showed a galaxy that was slowly being consumed by a wave of absolute nothingness. As the wave passed through star systems, those systems didn't explode or die. They simply stopped having ever been real. Watch carefully, Lucy said. The display showed a civilization of crystal beings not unlike Kethara's people. They had built beautiful cities and created wonderful art. Then the cascade reached their world. The cities vanished. The art disappeared. The beings themselves stopped existing. But here's the truly horrifying part, Lucy continued. Watch the rest of the galaxy. The other civilizations in that galaxy continued their lives as if the crystal beings had never existed. Their trade routes reorganized themselves. Their histories rewrote themselves. No one remembered that an entire species had just been erased from reality. The cascade doesn't just destroy, Admiral Stone said grimly. It edits the universe. It removes all trace that something ever existed. Even the memories of other people changed to match the new reality where those things never were. Zix 429 felt both his hearts racing again. How do you fight something like that? Very carefully, answered Dr. Martinez, and with technology that exists partially outside reality itself. She showed them recordings from humanity's first encounter with the cascade 12,000 years ago. The images were terrible to watch, entire human worlds being unmade, billions of people not dying but ceasing to have ever been born. We tried everything, Admiral Stone explained. Conventional weapons passed right through it. Energy barriers were simply edited out of existence. Even our most advanced reality manipulation, technology couldn't stop it. How did you escape? Asked Dr. Veltar. We didn't escape, Lucy said quietly. We ran, and we left a lot of people behind. The display showed the final desperate evacuation of human space 12,000 years ago. vast fleets carrying the last refugees from dozens of galaxies. The humans who couldn't be evacuated in time had volunteered to stay behind and try to slow the cascade down. They bought us time, Admiral Stone said. About 12,000 years worth. But the cascade learned from that encounter. It adapted. When it reaches this galaxy, it will be much harder to fight. Kethara's crystal body flickered between colors rapidly, a sign of extreme distress in her species. Why didn't you warn everyone when you returned? Why keep it secret? Because panic doesn't help, Lucy answered, and because most civilizations can't accept the truth about what's coming. She changed the display to show some of their attempts to warn other species. During their first empire, the results had been chaos. Some civilizations refused to believe them. Others fell into despair and gave up completely. A few tried to appease the cascade, as if they could negotiate with fundamental entropy. The cascade feeds on despair and chaos, Admiral Stone explained. Fear makes it stronger. Despair helps it spread faster. We learned that keeping people calm and focused is the only way to mount an effective defense. Pip spoke up from where she was floating in her water-filled helmet. What kind of defense can possibly work against something that rewrites reality? Admiral Stone and Lucy exchanged a look. Show them, Lucy said. The walls around them changed, displaying the true scope of human preparations. What they had seen during their tour was only the beginning. The real defenses were hidden in dimensions beyond normal space. Weapons that could strike targets in alternate timelines. Shields that existed in multiple realities simultaneously. Entire fleets that were anchored to fixed points in space-time, so they couldn't be edited out of existence. We call it the Reality Anchor Network, Admiral Stone explained. Every major construction project you've seen is connected to it. The ring worlds, the moved stars, the Dyson spheres, they're all part of a massive machine designed to hold this region of space steady against the cascade's influence. Dr. Veltar studied the displays with his scientific training. The energy requirements must be enormous. We're harvesting the output of 300 stars and 67 black holes, Lucy confirmed. It's barely enough. But will it work? Asked Zix 429. Admiral Stone was quiet for a long moment. We don't know. The cascade that's coming is stronger than the one we fled from. It's had 12,000 years to learn and adapt. Our defenses are better too, but he didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. What do you need from our civilizations? Kethara asked. Everything, Lucy said simply. Every ship, every scientist, every resource you can spare. But more than that, we need you to prepare your people mentally for what's coming. She showed them projections of what the galaxy might look like during the war against the cascade. Entire star systems would need to be evacuated. Populations would need to be moved to the most heavily defended areas. Industries would need to be converted to building weapons and shields. It will mean the end of the galaxy as you know it, Admiral Stone warned. Win or lose, nothing will ever be the same again. What happens if we refuse to help? Asked Dr. Veltar. Lucy answered without hesitation. Then when the cascade arrives, you'll face it with whatever defenses you can build in the next 1,000 years. Conventional defenses that will fail completely. The display showed simulations of what would happen to undefended worlds when the cascade arrived. The results were not encouraging. But if we help you, Zix 429 said slowly, what are our chances? Better, Admiral Stone replied. Not good, but better. How much better? Admiral Stone looked at Lucy, who ran calculations on a device that existed in 7 dimensions simultaneously. With full galactic cooperation, advanced preparation, and a lot of luck, maybe 30%. The silence that followed was crushing. 30% chance of survival, but only if every civilization in the galaxy worked together perfectly for 1,000 years. There's something else, Lucy said quietly. Even if we win, even if we stop the cascade completely, the victory will cost us everything we've built here. The Reality Anchor Network will burn itself out stopping the cascade. The weapons we're building can only be used once. Win or lose, human civilization as it exists now will be destroyed. Then why fight at all? asked Pip. Admiral Stone's smile was sad, but determined. Because the alternative is not just our destruction, but the erasure of our entire history. If we fight and lose, at least we'll have existed. If we don't fight, we'll never have been real at all. He stood up from the crystallized timetable. That's why we came back. That's why we rebuilt our capabilities. Not for conquest or glory, but because someone has to stand between the cascade and everything else that exists. We're not asking you to trust us, Lucy added. We're asking you to help us save everyone, including yourselves. The alien representative sat in the impossible room, surrounded by displays showing the scope of the coming disaster. Everything they had learned over the past few days was leading to this moment. The choice between comfortable ignorance and terrifying responsibility. How long do we have to decide? Asked Zix 429. The preparations need to begin immediately if they're going to be ready in time, Admiral Stone replied. But the choice to believe us, to commit your civilizations to this fight, that needs to happen now. Because, Lucy said quietly, every day we wait is a day we could have been building defenses. And against the entropy cascade, we're going to need every single day we can get. 1 week after the final briefing, representatives from every major civilization in the galaxy gathered at Archive Station. The impossible structure had grown larger to accommodate them all. Hundreds of species that had never worked together before now faced the same terrible choice. Ambassador Zix 429 stood before the assembled crowd. His forearms trembled as he spoke. We have all seen the evidence. We have all heard the warnings. Now we must decide what to do with this knowledge. In the past week, each species had returned home to consult with their governments. The reactions had been predictable. Some leaders refused to believe the threat was real. Others demanded more proof. A few had already begun making preparations. Cathara's crystal body flashed urgent colors as she addressed the assembly. The Vorthon Empire has voted. We will commit our full resources to the defense preparations. The alternative is unacceptable. Murmurs spread through the crowd. The Vorthons were known for being cautious and practical. If they were willing to bet everything on humanity's warnings, the threat must be real. Dr. Veltar spoke for the Centauri Republic. Our scientists have verified the calculations. The energy signatures match what we would expect from a reality-destroying phenomenon. We also commit to full participation. One by one, the major civilizations announced their decisions. The Aquarians, despite their peaceful nature, pledged their advanced biotechnology. The Silicon Brotherhood offered their expertise in quantum engineering. Even the usually isolationist plasma lords agreed to share their energy manipulation techniques. But not everyone was convinced. Chancellor Voxon of the Outer Rim Confederacy stood up, his insectoid form clicking angrily. This is madness. We are supposed to abandon our way of life based on human claims about invisible threats? How do we know this isn't some elaborate scheme to control the galaxy? Admiral Kevin Stone sat quietly at the human table. He had expected this reaction. Chancellor Voxon, would you like to see the cascade directly? That's impossible. You said it won't arrive for 1,000 years. The main wave won't arrive for 1,000 years, Stone corrected. But the leading edge is already detectable, if you know what to look for. He activated a device that none of the aliens recognized. Suddenly, the walls of the station became transparent, showing the edge of the galaxy. At first, everything looked normal. Stars twinkled peacefully in the darkness. Then the display adjusted to show reality at deeper levels. At the very edge of detectable space, something was wrong. The stars weren't just dark, they were absent. Not black holes that bent light, but actual gaps in the fabric of existence itself. As they watched, another star simply stopped being there. The advanced scouts of the cascade, Stone explained. They probe ahead, testing the reality structure of target regions. What you're seeing is the beginning of the end. Chancellor Voxon's compound eyes focused on the display. Even his skeptical nature couldn't deny what he was seeing. Reality itself was being erased one star at a time. How long before it reaches inhabited systems? He asked quietly. At current rate of expansion, about 800 years, replied Dr. Lucy Martinez. But that's just the scouts. When the main wave hits, it will move much faster. The Chancellor sat down heavily. The Outer Rim Confederacy will consider joining the defense efforts. Commander Jake Harrison stood up from the human delegation. He looked tired, as if the weight of cosmic responsibility was wearing him down. There's something else you all need to understand. We're not just asking you to help us build weapons and shields. He gestured to the display, which now showed detailed plans for the coming preparations. We're asking you to fundamentally change how your civilizations work. The galaxy you've built over thousands of years, the trade networks, the peaceful territories, the comfortable lives, all of that has to end. The alien representatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Every ship will need to be converted. For military use, Jake continued. Every factory will need to produce defense equipment. Every scientist will need to work on reality-anchoring technology. Every citizen will need to accept that their old life is over. Pip floated in her water tank, her small blue form pulsing with anxiety. What about our children? What kind of galaxy will they inherit? If we succeed, answered Dr. Martinez, they'll inherit a galaxy that's scarred but alive. If we fail, they won't inherit anything at all. The weight of that statement settled over the assembly like a physical thing. They weren't just choosing between cooperation and independence. They were choosing between a terrible future and no future at all. Elder Thane of the Crystal Forests spoke for the first time. His ancient voice carried the authority of someone who had lived for over 1,000 years. Young humans, you ask us to trust you with everything we have built. But trust must be earned. Show us you are worthy of this responsibility. Admiral Stone nodded respectfully to the elder. What would you have us do? Prove that your intentions are pure. If you truly plan to sacrifice your civilization to save ours, show us that sacrifice means something to you. Stone looked at his fellow humans. They had prepared for this moment. Computer, activate the memorial protocol. The space around Archive Station filled with light. Thousands of structures materialized from hidden dimensions. Monuments that had been built in secret over the past 2 centuries. Each monument bore the names of humans who had died during the first Cascade War 12,000 years ago. Billions of names carved in crystallized time, ensuring they would never be forgotten even if reality itself was rewritten. These are our dead, Stone said simply. The people we left behind when we ran from the first cascade. Every human who has worked on these preparations knows that we're not trying to save ourselves. We're trying to make sure their sacrifice wasn't meaningless. The monuments rotated slowly, showing name after name after name. The scope of the loss was staggering. Entire worlds of people who had stayed behind to buy time for the evacuees. And here, said Dr. Martinez as new monuments appeared, are the names of everyone who will work on the Reality Anchor Network. Every human who will give their life to build the defenses. The second set of monuments was smaller but still enormous. It included every human currently alive, plus projections for the next 20 generations. All of them marked as casualties of the coming war. You see, Stone explained, we're not asking you to sacrifice for our benefit. We're asking you to let us sacrifice for yours. The alien representatives stared at the monuments in silence. The humans had already accepted that their entire civilization was going to die fighting the cascade. They were only asking the other species to help make that death meaningful. Elder Thane's ancient voice was soft when he spoke again. The Crystal Forests will join the defense. Our children will know that someone was willing to die for their future. One by one, the remaining holdout civilizations changed their votes. Even Chancellor Voxen's Outer Rim Confederacy agreed to full participation. Within hours, the first joint construction projects were beginning. Alterian gravity manipulators working alongside human reality anchors. Vorthon energy converters being integrated with Centauri quantum computers. Species that had barely traded with each other before were now sharing their most closely guarded technologies. The transformation was remarkable and heartbreaking. Peaceful trade routes became supply lines for war materials. Beautiful art centers were converted into weapons research facilities. Entire worlds began reorganizing themselves for the coming conflict. Jake Harrison stood on Archive Station's observation deck, watching the galaxy prepare for its greatest test. Dr. Helen Price joined him, her gray hair now completely white from the stress of the past months. "Do you think we can actually do it?" she asked. Jake was quiet for a long moment. "I think we can try, and sometimes trying is enough. Even if we only have a 30% chance. Especially then. Easy victories don't mean anything. It's the impossible fights that show who you really are." Helen looked out at the bustling activity filling space around them. Hundreds of species working together, building defenses against something that wanted to erase them all from existence. "The funny thing is," she said, 12,000 years ago, we became gods, and it corrupted us. Now we're choosing to become mortal again, and it's making us better than we ever were." Jake nodded. "Maybe that's what humanity really is. Not the species that can do anything, but the species that chooses to do the right thing even when it costs everything." In the distance, the first reality anchor beacon came online, its light visible across multiple dimensions. It was just one beacon among thousands that would need to be built, but it was a start. The galaxy had made its choice. They would stand, together against the entropy cascade, not because victory was certain, but because some things were worth fighting for even when the odds were hopeless. The map would continue to end at human space, but now everyone knew why. Beyond that border, the greatest fortress in galactic history was being built by species that had chosen to risk everything rather than accept extinction. And somewhere in the deep darkness beyond the galaxy's edge, the entropy cascade continued, its slow approach unaware that for the first time in its existence, someone was preparing to fight back.